Well, it's Friday, May 16th. I want to welcome you by Absorption 77. The stuff you put in. Remember the stuff you put into your body and your mind. Remember the saying back in the 70s? Garbage in, garbage out, GIGO, GIGO. Well, that's kind of the negative side. So I went looking for the positive side of that. And so I just changed one word, good in, good out. And that's what we're about here at Absorption 77. We're about interesting things that you can put into your mind and your body. And so it takes in everything from mental health, physical health, spiritual health, emotional health, financial health, relational health, existential health. Why am I here? What's my purpose? We're really interested in your health. And so what you put into your body and your mind is going to put good stuff out into the community, out into the world, out into society. And I'm really concerned about people and their ability to get good stuff into their mind and their body. We spend so much time being afraid, being fearful, being afraid of, for instance, the sun. We're worried about, I don't know how many times we've been to the pool. We go to the pool in the summer here. And the amount of sunscreen people put on is, you can't see their skin after they spray all that on. And they're out there for 10, 15, 20 minutes, and their kids are just covered in white pasty, almost looks like glue. And do we need to be that afraid? My wife's been out back enjoying the sun. It's getting a little cloudy and a little crazy, a little windy. Probably about 25, 30 mile an hour winds now. So she's come in, but she's out there. She calls it paradise. She's been out there sitting in the sun. And we've gotten terribly afraid of so many things. And that's part of society. That's part of the way we live. It seems like there are 9 times more fearful things going on in our lives than there are positive things. We're afraid of so many things. I remember swimming in a lake in Boy Scouts. It was called Camp Ahika, and the lake was Lake Surprises up in North Jersey. And my brother and I used to fish there quite a bit. And one time we saw, and I'm not exaggerating, come on, hang in there with me, but we saw a turtle, and the shell was about this big, snapping turtle. And we knew who it was. We called him Little Joe. And he had a bullet hole. Well, we assume it was a bullet hole, but he had a big hole in the back of his shell, the top of his shell. And Little Joe came up and grabbed one of my brother's hooks. He had some crazy hook on with a blue little bluegill he was using for bass bait, I guess. But Little Joe got a hold of it, and we were on kind of a dock, a fishing dock, and he pulled us under. He pulled the dock under, and and a little while after that, I don't know, it was months or whatever, we went for what was called a 1 mile swim. You could get a badge, put it on your clothing, and you had to swim a mile, the 1 mile swim. And all we could think about the whole time we were out there is Little Joe. We're just sure he was going to bite off our feet or our toes or part of our leg or something. We're terrified. And so we're swimming through all these weeds. There were a lot of weeds in Lake Ahika or Lake Surprise. And that fear just lasted with us. And I've always worried about since then, how do we get rid of our fears? How do we get rid of those things that plague us, that trouble us? And Scripture has some answers for you. And I'm going to bring one of them today from Philippians 4:8. But it's really about modeling our life after people who have mastered the things we're afraid of. Of course, Christ is the great model of all kinds, all time. But there have been people who've made it through the fears that we're going through, the anxieties, the troubles, the things that keep us awake at night. And we need to find those people. We need to find what it is that they take advantage of and how how they change their outlook, and how they put good stuff into their mind and their body and let good stuff come back out again. Because we want you to be productive. We want you to be excited about life. We want you to feel like you got something good to contribute to the people around you, to your family, to your friends, to your church, to your community. We don't want you to hole up and hide and climb into a snail shell somewhere and become a hermit. We want you to be effective and useful and meaningful and rich and associative and relational, and put good things back into the world from which you've been able to take good things out. So we want you to have a life full of GIGO, good stuff in, good stuff out. And but you got to find the people who, or the people ask me sometimes, they say, well, how do I change? How do I get out of this eternal mindset of sadness or brokenness or dis-ease or discomfort or trouble? Or well, you got to find examples of ways to do it. And of course, there are positive people. Remember Paul Harvey? Young people today probably don't remember him, but he was a broadcaster, a radio guy. Paul Harvey. Good day is what he would say at the end. And he meant it. He meant hopefully you had a good day. And he always had a spin on the news that was positive. I'd say 99.8% of the time. There was a couple of times, I suppose, where he had to illustrate things through a negative illustration. But almost all the time, he would take a story from life. Look him up on YouTube if you want. And you can listen to some of his radio broadcasts. There are others like that. But I chose early on to find those kind of people in my life and those models. So let's turn to Scripture. Let's turn to my favorite book of wisdom. The whole Scriptures are a great book of wisdom. But there's one in particular in Philippians 4:8. And I just think this is a great text. It's not long, but it is chock full of wisdom about turning your mind toward the positive things. Here is and this is from the J.B. Phillips translation. I call it a paraphrase, and I've got another one, the paraphrase, the Message. And so I'll kind of read these two and maybe highlight a few things. Here is a last piece of advice. If you believe in goodness, and if you value the approval of God, J.B. Phillips suggests, fix your minds on the things which are holy. Holiness in the Bible is that which is set aside for lifting mankind up and redeeming mankind and bringing out the best in mankind. Fix your minds on the things which are holy. Summing it up, and this is the Message here, summing it all up, friends, and this is from Eugene Peterson, passed away a few years ago. Great pastor, fantastic pastor. He wasn't worried about anything except bringing people to the fullness and the measure of God. He loved to see people become more like Christ. And so he wrote in his Message, and he was a Greek and Hebrew professor back east as he was growing up and before he became a pastor, I think. And so he's got a lot of credibility with me when I read his translation. It's a paraphrase too, but I like to call it a parallation, actually. But anyway, he wrote, summing it all up, friends, I'd say you'll do best. Good stuff in, right, GIGO? You'll do best by filling your minds, mind and body, filling your minds and meditating, thinking, on things true. You ready for this? Here's the way to turn your minds around. On things true, noble. We don't even know what nobility is anymore. We're in a society that seems much more corrupt, but on noble, virtuous things, on noble things, reputable. And we don't even know what truth is sometimes anymore. It's a common thing, my truth or your truth, or Can you know the truth? But this wisdom leader, the philosopher, the Apostle Paul, he says, fill your minds in meditating on things true, noble, reputable, authentic, compelling, exciting. I added that. Gracious. Things that are filled with grace. The best, not the worst. The beautiful, not the ugly. Are you following me? The things you put in your mind. The beautiful, not the ugly. We get up every morning and walk around about a 3-mile trail around Holmes Lake here. And we fill our minds. We start the day with God, with each other, with friendship, with people we meet, with nature, with God's creation. We fill our minds with these things, and it sets the tone for the rest of the day. And if you do this every week, it's going to set the tone for the week, for the month, for the year, and you make it your habits. The beautiful, not the ugly. And there's some ugly things out there, and you can't avoid them all. I understand that. But the preponderance of things you put into your mind, the good stuff in, is going to lead to good stuff out. Things to praise, not things to curse. You ever notice how some folks are just filled with cursings? And I'm not talking about the word curse. I'm talking about they just a pox on everything, that they're just in love with how much they hate everything. Man, for those people, I feel the most. I feel the most sadness, I guess, and the most hope that they could turn toward things to praise, not things to curse. Put into practice what you learn from me. Paul was a model. I have so many Christian friends over the years that are afraid of Paul. They think Paul demands this, demands that he's not a good model. Paul was one of the best models. Put into practice what you learned from me, what you heard and saw and realized. You know, you witnessed Paul. You heard him. You saw him. I mean, he was so faithful to God. He had such deep faith in God. If God wanted him to go someplace, he would go on that mission. And his experience was just genuine, just real, just straightforward, just full of trust. Do that, and God, who makes everything work together, will work you into his most excellent harmonies. It's music in there. You hear the music? You are music. Your life is music. God is making music through you. And people listen and respond and rejoice in that music. Anyway, think on these things. Good things, wonderful things, clear and beautiful and praiseworthy things. And offer your praise to God for them. Have a great weekend, and we look forward to putting more good stuff in and seeing more good stuff come out.